Hey everyone, my name is Alexandra and I'm a watercolor artist. Today we are going to be trying something completely new and different, and we are going to be painting a coffee cup with coffee. Let's get started. For supplies today, you guys will need 2 cups of water, 1 for clean, 1 for dirty water, a pencil just to draw out our coffee cup before we start painting it. For paintbrushes, I'm using Opus Allegro's numbers 8 and 0. I'm specifically using older paintbrushes just because I'm painting with coffee, so I definitely don't want to ruin my current more expensive ones. Next, you guys will need a napkin for drying your paintbrushes on. For paper, I'm using 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. And lastly, I have a cup of instant coffee that I have made. I made it to be pretty strong just so that we can get a nice dark color. And then I just have a little dish to mix my coffee on before I put it on my paper. So the first thing that you guys will need to do is draw a circle onto your page. So you're welcome to freehand this. I don't quite trust my freehand circles, so I just have a little Christmas ornament that I'm going to trace. You guys can use a cup or something, and just be careful to be really light with your pencil. We don't want it to come on too dark. And then once you've done that, you guys are actually going to go ahead and draw a bigger circle around it. So I'm just going to use another thing to trace for this one. And we'll do a really light line around. So that's just going to give us a good guide as to where our coffee cup is going to go. And now, while I have that there, I'm also gonna go sort of in this top corner here and draw the handle for my coffee cup. So what I've done is I've just added kind of a rectangle sticking out from the top. And then the last thing that I want to do for ours is add a spoon to it. So I'm gonna draw the shape pretty light on the side here. So I have kind of a oval, maybe more like an egg shape there, coming to a bit of a point, and then we'll get our handle drawn in. And this might be a little bit harder to see now just because I'm drawing very light with my pencil, but as I start painting, you guys will see more what it looks like. So now that we've done that, we can get started with adding our coffee to our painting. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my larger paintbrush. And because my coffee is more watered down, I'm not going to wet my paintbrush too much. And I'm actually just gonna go right into my coffee. And I'm just gonna get some of that onto my little tray here. So it's gonna be a little bit different than painting with watercolor in that we kind of get the consistency that we have in the cup here. But we're gonna use more layering just to get more darker colors out of it. So first thing that I'm gonna do is paint onto the inside of my coffee cup. And I'm just gonna start by simply filling it in, and we'll add more as we go to make it stand out a little bit more. So this is also a super fun way to paint. If you want to have different colors and things, you guys can also use things like different flavors of tea as well to get the different color tones. So now that I've done that, I'm going to mix a little bit more paint on my palette. I just know that as it dries, some of the water is going to evaporate and I'm going to be able to get a little bit more of a pigmented paint. And as you guys can see, there's some coffee grounds that are mixed in there, so that's another reason why I'm using one of my older paintbrushes for this. But now that I have this circle painted, I'm just gonna go over a little bit with some more paint, and then we're gonna actually let that dry and we'll go back into it after. So I'll rinse my paintbrush before I go on to the next step. And we're gonna switch to our smaller brush now. So for the smaller brush, I'm gonna paint sort of the inside of where the spoon is and just give it the look that maybe there was some coffee on there. So going into my coffee here, and I'm painting just a little oval on the inside of my spoon. And while I'm using my small brush, we're gonna go around the outside of our coffee cup and just sort of very lightly outline the rim. And I don't mind if it's not a perfect line. Now I can even take what I've just done and I can add some lines kind of on the inside as well, just to give it a little bit of shading and maybe look like it has a tiny bit of reflection as well. So I'm just doing sort of these curved lines on the inside. Now I'm going to follow the same concept with my handle and give it a bit of an outline. Just to get that general shape to stand out. Now following the exact same thing that we're doing, we're going to do the same with our spoon. So very lightly following those pencil lines that I've drawn. And then I can add a little bit more towards the bottom for some shading and go around the actual shape of my spoon as well. So now that we've done that, you guys can already see you have a super cute coffee cup. We're gonna let this layer dry and then we're gonna go in with the second layer just to make it a lot darker and stand out quite a bit more. We're gonna take a brief pause in this tutorial because I have something to tell you guys. I am so excited to introduce my new course, From Palette to Paper, A Beginner's Guide to Watercolor. In this course, we do a deep dive into all of the foundational watercolor techniques. Then we go into depth painting florals, and after that we combine it all into one beautiful floral masterpiece. I have a link in the description below for more information, so go check it out. So I've added the second layer of paint to my cup. Our overhead camera wasn't on, so I'm just gonna explain to you guys what I did, and then we're gonna do kind of the exact same concept for our third layer of painting. So don't worry, I'm gonna go through it again in more detail. But what I had done is I went into my coffee grounds and simply just did a second layer over where I've already painted. As you guys can see here, I followed kind of where the inside of my coffee cup is. And then I just kind of mixed it in to look like there might be some foam on top of my coffee cup, as well as with my spoon. I just added a little bit more shading. With this painting as a whole, we're keeping everything just really, really loose, not really worrying too much about specific detail. So yeah, just adding that second layer, and as we add the third layer, you guys will see how much more this will stand out. Also, just so you guys know, if you want to be painting this with a little bit more depth in the color, then you guys are welcome to steep your coffee in either a little bit less water, or you guys can use a darker roast as well, which will help get a little bit more of that more vibrant color. So now we're gonna go on to our third layer. So with my small brush, I'm going into my paint on my palette here, just because as it dries and the water evaporates, I'm gonna get more of a pigmented color. So now I want to go over where I've already painted, and we're just gonna add that extra layer. So as I add this layer, you're not gonna see it as much. Once it dries, you guys will be able to notice the difference a little bit more. So I'm essentially painting into where I've already painted, but I'm not going directly over top. I want the inside of this cup to kind of have 3 different tones in it. So we're just adding our paint over top. And then with my spoon, for this third layer, I'm gonna go a little bit more detailed. So I'm gonna follow the outline of the spoon itself. I'm trying to do a more fine line with my paintbrush. And then on the inside here, to just round out this circle that I had painted. And then again, with a fine line, I'm going around the outside of my spoon, as well as around the outside of my coffee cup again. Just so that we can get more of that darker paint. And we're doing a little bit of a glazing technique here just by layering onto what we've already painted. And by doing that, we're essentially painting with the exact same color that our first layer was, but it's going to dry much darker as we layer our colors. So just continuing to outline. And then the other thing that I'm noticing with my coffee cup that I'm not loving is how harsh this line is to separate sort of the two colors of coffee. So I'm adding a little bit more around the outside here. And now I'm gonna go into my water, rinse my brush, and I'm actually just gonna try to blend this portion out just a little bit so that we get a little bit of a softer difference between the two colors. So I can add a little bit more paint, a little bit more water. Now it works a little bit differently than watercolor where it stains the paper quite a bit more. So we do have to work at it just a bit to get rid of that really harsh separation. And then if I go back in with more coffee, because it's wet, it's gonna bleed in a little bit more naturally. Okay, so now that we've done that, we are going to let that layer dry, and I'm gonna show you guys a way to add some extra detail with pen after. This is another step that you guys definitely don't have to do, but it's one that will just make it stand out a bit more with what we've painted already. So if you guys want, you are more than welcome to leave it as is here. Just because of how the coffee went onto the page, very loose, I want to actually add some details with a pen. So for supplies, just so you guys know, this is a Micron 05 pen. If you guys use 05 or smaller, then that'll be good to just be able to get some nice fine details. So what I'm doing essentially is just a loose outline of all of the shapes that I've painted. So again, this step is completely optional. You guys can leave it just at the coffee cup. But if we're adding the pen step, then we'll start with our spoon here. And I'm gonna start working my way around with my pen. I'm not too worried about the lines being perfectly, not uniform, but continuous. It's okay if there's some white spaces in between, because essentially we just wanna give some more definition to our spoon. So now with the inside of this one here, I wanna give maybe some half circle lines to just show where that center part of the spoon is. And then also down at the bottom here, we're just gonna give it a little bit more definition by outlining kind of that oval in the center. So now with our coffee cup, exact same idea. We're going around our circle. And it's okay if it's not a fully continuous line. Same thing around the center circle. Not being too picky about it. I'm just adding a little bit of shading around where I've painted some of my coffee. I can outline some of these lines that I sort of used to show maybe a little bit of a reflection. And then inside the actual center part of the coffee, I just want to outline some of these lines to show the separation between the colors that I've painted. So I can kind of see here where it goes. So I'm just gonna outline that with a really loose sort of squiggly line. Have some more in this corner here. And then if I want, I can go back and make some of my border lines a little bit thicker just so it's a bit more defined. Still keeping this really, really loose look. And my pen is dying a little bit, so I'm coloring it in a little bit more. But I'm using very much sketching lines rather than super specific, really smooth lines. So again, with my spoon, I'm just adding in some more of that darker color to outline the general shapes that we've painted. All right, and there you guys have a coffee cup painted with coffee. Let me know if you guys want to see any more videos like this. I definitely have painting with tea on my radar, so that's something that might come in the future. But if you guys give this a try, make sure to take a picture of it, send it to me on Instagram at Alexandra Victoria Studio. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. We'll see you next time.